Hare Krishna. My name is Krishna Kirti Das, and I am going to comment on the question and answer portion of a Bhagavatam class given by His Holiness Bir Krishna Das Goswami, who is responding to a devotee named Dharmadas, who himself is a highly successful book distributor from Serbia. The class took place on January 7th, 2020, and is on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 18, Text 35. Now, why I'm commenting on this portion of the class is that I feel that Maharaj's opinions on the subject of women's social roles and the female Diksha Guru issue are representative of the views and attitudes of many devotees in our movement. However, there are many others in our movement who do not share these views, and I will be representing them. So, I will play this portion of the lecture, and at certain points I will stop and comment.
Slovenia is a very nice country. So, any other questions? Yes, Norma.
Guru, the last few days you a lot talk about, like you say, controversial topic.
I was hoping not to be controversial today. What?
I was quiet. I have heavy pain in the arm, and I was quiet last days. But I must be honest that you, as you say yesterday, we should not blindly accept everything and like zombies and so on. So I must be honest, something cannot really understand fully, and also cannot accept something because of my different experience which I had.
Uh-huh.
If you can allow me to discuss a little more about this topic. So, first of all, I want to say I'm not a chauvinistic in my attitude. As you know, I love my wife the most in the life, and she's my best friend. And I have only one desire, and one wish, one desire in my life to, together with my wife, eternally serve Krishna after this lifetime, to go back home together with my wife, and that we can eternally serve Krishna. So, I'm listening to Srila Prabhupada non-stop for the years, every day.
Right.
And about this topic between male and female, Srila Prabhupada very clearly said in the direct way quite strong statements.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when he was often asked from some journalists and so on in America, at that time it was very prominent, this equal rights between men and women. And we can hear from Srila Prabhupada very clearly that he was not appreciate the idea. He very strongly criticized this.
Mm-hmm.
And he explained that this means that women will be even more exploited in the future and misused.
Yes.
And not be protected. And we can see that this is really become true. Today's society, not so many divorces as going on, divorces between wife and husbands.
Mm-hmm.
Also we can see, unfortunately, in our society, ISKCON, from Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, recently he was here, we can heard from him that this is the one of the most problems now in ISKCON, divorces between husband and wives. So, Srila Prabhupada also said in many occasions that when he was asked what woman should do in the Hare Krishna movement, in Krishna consciousness, he said she should only follow her husband, and that's all. I recently listened just to this conversation. He was very clear. She should just follow her husband, and that's all. Also, he did the statements in Bhagavatam, many places and so on. And to end this little introduction, before I ask you something. About this female Diksha Guru, also I cannot fully understand this, because in the fourth canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, story of Dhruva Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada clearly said in one purport that Suniti, who was mother of Dhruva Maharaj, she cannot become Diksha Guru of Dhruva Maharaj because she is a woman and also she is his mother. Now my question is, by so much interpretation of these very clearly statements of Srila Prabhupada, if we read carefully and listen carefully, he was very strong and I can see from my experience.
Can you stop for a second, because there's several different points.
No, my question is only...
Well, wait a second. Yeah. There's several different points you're making, and you're clearly agitated. So, to think clearly, you should be peaceful about these things. There's something else going on. So, as far as the woman Diksha Gurus, there's a statement by Prabhupada, I want all my devotees, and I don't remember the exact word, but, the boys and girls who take this test, they can become gurus. There's a very clear statement that wait a second.
I understand.
No, Prabhupada said gurus. And they can increase the generations. That means, first of all, if you want to get into a whole discussion, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says Siksha Guru and Diksha Guru are equal and different manifestations of Krishna. In fact, in our Sampradaya, the Siksha Guru, see, you got so many different questions you threw out. In our Sampradaya, Siksha Gurus are considered more important than Diksha Gurus. So it's not that saying that women cannot be Diksha Gurus but can be Shiksha Gurus says that they're less important. It says they're more important. So nowhere does Prabhupada say there cannot be women Diksha Gurus.
Srila Prabhupada just said in this purport that Suniti could not become Dhruva's Diksha Guru because she was a woman. Let me read the exact quote here. According to Shastric injunctions, there is no difference between Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru, and generally the Shiksha Guru later on becomes the Diksha Guru. Suniti, however, being a woman, and specifically his mother, could not become Dhruva Maharaj's Diksha Guru. Here, Srila Prabhupada says that Suniti could not become Dhruva's Diksha Guru because she was a woman. Yet Maharaj said that Srila Prabhupada never said any such thing. So what's going on here? In the next part, Maharaj clarifies that he is not saying that Srila Prabhupada does not say this. He says that Srila Prabhupada does not prescribe it. In other words, Maharaj is saying that Srila Prabhupada is merely describing some incident that happened at some time in the past, not prescribing action for the present. Therefore, we are not obliged to follow it. However, as we shall see, our acharyas have refuted this line of reasoning.
Secondly, and as far as that statement, referring to Dhruva Maharaj's story, where he says that Suniti could not become the guru of Dhruva Maharaj because she was his mother as well as a woman, that is a descriptive statement. There's two things that we understand from Shastra. There's prescription and description. Description is given, I hope everyone understands what I'm talking about. Description means describing a particular circumstance in a particular age. Prescription means you cannot do this. You understand? So one has to be able to understand Shastra from that particular point of view. That sometimes there's a description of something that happened or didn't happen or wasn't allowed in a particular time, place, and circumstance, and sometimes there's the prescription. A prescription is a definite statement, like a woman can never become a Diksha Guru.
On the point of prescription versus description, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushana refutes this in his Govinda Bhashya commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Commenting on the sutra, Shastra Unitvat, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushana first describes the opposing point of view in this way. And just for your information, I'm reading from a translation by Bhanu Maharaj. At this point, someone may raise the following objection. The Vedanta philosophy does not give either positive orders or negative prohibitions, but simply descriptions, as the sentence, quote, on earth there are 7 continents, unquote. Men need instructions in how to act. Therefore, what is needed is a series of orders to guide men. Men need orders such as the ordinary orders. Quote, a man desiring wealth should approach the king, unquote. Or, quote, one suffering from indigestion should restrict his intake of water, unquote. Or the orders of the Vedas. Svarga kamo yajita. One desiring to enter the celestial material planets should worship the demigods. Or, suram na pibet. No one should drink wine. The Upanishads do not give us a string of orders and prohibitions, but merely a description of the eternally perfect Brahman. For example, the Upanishads tell us Satyam Jnanam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is truth and knowledge. So, this is very similar to Maharaj's argument, that Srila Prabhupada is giving us a description, not a prescription. The implied conclusion is that the Upanishads are little, if any, help in guiding our actions, because they are descriptive, not prescriptive. The same would be true of Srila Prabhupada's description of Suniti. Now, Baladev Vidyabhushana gives a reply to this objection, which I shall read. To this objection, I reply, do not be bewildered. Even though the Upanishads do not give us a series of orders and prohibitions, still they teach us about the Supreme Brahman, the most important and valuable object to be attained by any living entity. Just as if in your house there were hidden treasure and a description of its location were spoken to you, those words would not be useless simply because they were a description. In the same way, the Upanishad's description of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the greatest treasure to be attained by any living being, whose form is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss, who is perfect and beyond any criticism, who is the friend of all living entities, the Supreme Lord, who is so kind that he gives himself to his devotees, and the supreme whole of all existence, of whom I am a tiny part, is not useless, but of great value to the conditioned soul. The descriptions of the Supreme Brahman in the Upanishads are valuable, just as the description, quote, your son is now born, unquote, is useful and a great source of joy. And the description that this is not a snake, but only a rope partly seen in the darkness, is also useful and a great relief from fear. Some more examples. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 13, Lord Krishna says, Dehinosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dehantara praptir tirastatra namoyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So here Krishna even indicates that because of this description, one should not be bewildered. In other words, just the description alone is of immense and practical benefit. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 6, Krishna describes the spiritual world. Na tad bhasayate suyo, na shashanko na pavakaha, yad gadvana nivartante tadama paramam mama. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, one should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. So the description itself is motivation for action. And then at the end of Bhagavad Gita in chapter 18, the qualities of the different varnas are described. And for brahmanas, shocham, or cleanliness, is one of those qualities. So are we going to say that a brahmana is pure, but this is not a prescriptive statement? It doesn't say that a brahmana should be pure. Do we really want to go there? So clearly, if we were to follow this distinction between prescription and description, treating the descriptive statements as irrelevant or not very important for guiding our actions, then we would end up with very little of the scriptures and even very little of Srila Prabhupada's instructions to guide us on a wide range of very important matters. Therefore, as shown by Srila Baladev Vidyabhushana, this idea that descriptive statements do little or nothing to guide our activities is rejected.